two friends, Tyler and Marcus, had a habit of urban exploration. They'd broken into factories, climbed rooftops, and crawled through drainage tunnels. The rush kept them coming back. One October night, they decided to explore an abandoned nursing home on the edge of town. The building was wrapped in rusted chain-link fencing and overgrown vines. Its windows were boarded, but someone had already pried a section loose. They slipped inside. The air smelled of mold and something faintly metallic. Wheelchairs were scattered across halls like forgotten skeletons. Every step stirred up dust thick enough to choke. They used flashlights, but even the beams seemed swallowed by the gloom. Not long after entering, Marcus froze. "You hear that?" he whispered. Tyler strained. Faintly, like a shuffle of slippers dragging on tile. They stood silent, lights off. The sound grew closer, steady, deliberate. The two edged down a corridor, peeking into rooms lined with peeling wallpaper and collapsed ceiling panels. In one room, writing covered the walls, scribbles layered over scribbles. "Don't let them in. Don't let them in." The sound of footsteps came again, now from the floor above them. Tyler shook his head. "No power here, right? Place has been dead for decades." Yet when they turned into a stairwell, light flickered faintly from the top landing. Upstairs, they found beds lined neatly as if waiting for patients. A single bulb swung overhead, flickering though the power should have been long cut. Then Tyler turned around, and Marcus was gone. The flashlight beam darted frantically across the hall. Marcus. Silence. Then, from a side room, a shape stepped out. It was Marcus, but something about him was wrong. His face was pale, his eyes unfocused. He didn't speak, just stared at the walls, tracing the scribbles with trembling fingers. Tyler dragged him outside, heart pounding. Once in the cold night air, Marcus finally blinked and came back. He had no memory of what happened inside. To this day, he won't speak about the nursing home. He avoids even driving past it. Tyler swears that when he sleeps, he still hears slippers dragging on tile just outside his door. Story B. The Cabin in the Woods. In a stretch of remote forest, 3 college kids decided to camp illegally on private land. The land had a hunting cabin that looked abandoned. No electricity, no plumbing, just 4 walls and a roof. It seemed perfect for a weekend away. The first night felt ordinary. They lit a small fire outside, swapped ghost stories, laughed at how creepy the woods felt after dark. When the fire died down, they retreated into the cabin. That's when the noises started. At first, it was rustling in the trees. They assumed it was raccoons. But the rustling circled the cabin, deliberate, as if pacing. Then came the sound of heavy breathing, just outside the thin wooden door. One of them, Jake, mustered the courage to peek out. Nothing. The woods stood silent. Later, while they tried to sleep, a shadow passed the single window. A man-shaped figure stood still, staring in. They scrambled outside with flashlights, hearts hammering. No footprints, no figure, just the echo of branches snapping deeper in the woods. The second night was worse. Around midnight, the cabin door creaked though they'd bolted it shut. A cold wind swept inside, extinguishing their lantern. When the light flicked back on, one of their backpacks was gone. Later, they found it outside, shredded, as if clawed open. One girl, Sarah, woke with deep scratches across her back. No memory of how she got them. The group fled at sunrise, abandoning half their gear. Weeks later, when telling the story, Sarah admitted something she hadn't told the others. While half asleep that night, she thought she saw a face hovering inches above her. Not human, but something stretched too thin, eyes wide, unblinking. Aftermath reflections. Both groups thought they were just breaking property lines. What they broke instead was a line thinner, older, and far less forgiving. Urban explorers and thrill seekers tell themselves it's all in their heads, creaking floors, tricks of the light, the stress of being somewhere forbidden. But then there are the parts that can't be explained away. The vanished time, the missing memories, the wounds with no cause. Trespassing horror doesn't always end in arrest. Sometimes the punishment is stranger. It lingers in the body, scratches that shouldn't be there, dreams that don't feel like dreams, the certainty that someone followed you home. The warning is simple. When you cross into places abandoned, closed off, or fenced in, you're not just breaking the law. You're entering someone else's space, and not all residents are visible. City nights have their own pulse. Neon signs glow, streets hum with engines, and far above it all, rooftops stretch like secret kingdoms. For some, the lure of climbing those roofs is irresistible. A group of 4 friends in their early 20s were chasing that thrill. Armed with cameras and adrenaline, they planned to scale a high-rise under renovation, ignoring signs and locked gates. The building loomed nearly 30 stories above a busy downtown. Getting in was simple, a gap in the construction fencing. Inside, they navigated half-finished stairwells and dangling wires until they reached a locked steel door. One friend picked the lock with surprising ease, and soon they were climbing a final ladder toward the roof. The view was everything they hoped for, city lights sprawling endlessly, cars like fireflies below. They laughed, posed for photos, and leaned dangerously close to the ledge. But their celebration ended when the sound of barking cut through the wind. Security had dogs, and they were already inside. The group scrambled. One slipped on loose gravel near the edge. His foot skidded, his body twisted, and he fell. Not all the way down, but onto a metal platform 2 stories below. The crack of bone was louder than the city noise. The others panicked. Calling emergency services meant admitting trespassing. They tried to haul him up, but his leg was mangled. Hours passed in terror until sunrise, when construction workers found them. The boy survived, but the fallout was brutal. Surgery, months of recovery, criminal charges, heavy fines. But what haunted them most wasn't the law. It was the memory of that near silhouette of a friend disappearing over the edge, the sound of the fall, and the realization that a few photos weren't worth a life. Story D. The mine that swallowed them. Unlike rooftops, mines don't glow with city lights. They wait underground, quiet, damp, and deadly. Many are sealed off for good reason: unstable structures, poisonous gases, shafts that drop for hundreds of feet. But danger only adds to the thrill for some. A group of explorers decided to sneak into an old coal mine rumored to be miles long. The entrance was welded shut, but years of weather had opened a narrow gap. They crawled in, flashlights slicing through darkness. The deeper they went, the colder it grew. Dripping water echoed endlessly. They reached a wide chamber where old equipment rusted, half swallowed by the earth. That's when the air grew strange, thick, heavy. One of them started coughing, gasping. His flashlight dropped, beam rolling across the floor. The group panicked. They tried dragging him back toward the entrance, but the path blurred in the dark. Their lights flickered as the air grew thinner. Somewhere above, dirt shifted, pebbles falling like rain. Then came the unmistakable sound of timber groaning. A partial collapse buried part of the tunnel behind them. Dust filled their lungs. By the time they stumbled back to the entrance, their friend was unconscious. It took rescuers hours to reach them. The boy survived, but doctors later explained he'd inhaled toxic gases common in abandoned mines. Another few minutes, and he wouldn't have made it. The legal charges came later, but the guilt landed immediately. They dragged someone into a place that was never meant for human life anymore. Long after, one of them admitted he still woke at night, coughing, tasting dirt, hearing timbers snap. Consequences that don't fade. The aftermath of these stories isn't filled with ghosts or demons. It's quieter, and in many ways crueler. A shattered leg that never quite heals right. Lungs scarred by air meant only for the dead earth. Families drained by medical bills. Criminal records that follow you for years. There's a reason no trespassing signs hang on fences. Sometimes they protect property owners. Sometimes they protect you from poisons, unstable ground, sheer drops waiting in the dark. But the human mind doesn't always need supernatural punishment. Sometimes the worst horror is sitting across from your best friend in a hospital bed, knowing one reckless choice put them there. Closing thought. Trespassing horror comes in 2 flavors. One is the stuff of whispers and shadows, the unseen that brushes against your skin when you shouldn't be there. The other is sharp and brutal, written in broken bones and court papers. Both kinds carry the same warning: step into a place you don't belong, and you may not walk out the same.